What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down some of the most unguardable routes in one-on-one. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, we are going to be traveling out to 8 more states this offseason for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. Next up on our camp tour, we are going to be coming out to Honolulu, Hawaii. That camp is completely sold out. Then we'll be coming out to Boston, Massachusetts. That camp is also sold out. But then we'll be heading out to Cleveland, Austin, Seattle, Newark, Denver, and Los Angeles. So if you guys want some more information on how you can train with us this off season, check out that very first link in the description below, fellas. That's where you can get all the info, how to sign up, everything that you need. So check out that very first link below if you want to train with myself and my staff of coaches. Let's get started with this video. So now, first route we're going to be looking at here is something called a jerk route. So a jerk route is one of the best routes that you guys can use in one-on-ones, but we got to talk about when to use this in an actual live game situation as well. So I'm going to play this thing full speed, and then we're going to break it down. So this looks a lot like a whip route, and it builds off of a whip route. So anytime that you are seeing a lot of man coverage from a DB, you got to understand that the way to get separation is to be unpredictable. We have to put this DB in certain situations where the routes that I'm running look like something that I've ran before, something that I've showcased on film, to always keep him on his toes. That is one of the biggest things that will get you separation. So a jerk route is essentially where you break to the inside on a slant, you put the brakes on like you're running a whip, you take one step and then jab back to the inside. So it has to look the exact same. So when you break across his face, like again, you give him this move to the outside, you cut in front of him, you put the brakes on, and you change levels. We cannot rush this type of move. So many times what wide receivers will do when they're doing a double move, when they have to work a route, like even for example, like if you're running a route like a stop and go, something simple like this, guys will rush the movement. They won't actually drop their hips. They won't actually change levels and put the brakes on, and it doesn't look the same. It looks like your jerk route can't look like just that's the only time that you run this type of break in terms of the tempo and in terms of the break. It has to look exactly like how you would run a whip route versus that same type of coverage look versus the same type of steps, everything. So you see when this wide receiver puts the brakes on, he cuts on the slant, he changes levels. He actually puts the brakes on. He actually stops himself. He gets low, and then he throws that jab back to the outside. And you see, hips and shoulders are committed to the line of scrimmage, because that is how you would run a whip route, fellas. And nothing changes. Just like how in press coverage, a DB is going to be watching your hips off the line of scrimmage, at the break point, when you break on this whip and you put the brakes on, where do you think he's watching? He's watching your hips, because when you drop your hips, that tells him that a break is coming. So when you guys run this jerk route, as we call it, you break to the slant, you put the brakes on, give a jab to the outside, you see how his hips and his shoulders, he's actually stepping there. That is what will get the DB to move. And that goes for anything. That goes for any type of double move that you run against a man coverage DB. Like let's say, for example, you're running an out and up route. When you guys break to this out route, you can't break and take choppy steps. You can't have your eyes looking at the floor. You actually have to break to that out route with speed, snap your eyes, run in full stride, because that's the only way we're going to get that DB to commit. Now, in a real game scenario, because this is a real route that you can use, and this is 100% a route that you can use in man coverage, a lot of people will say that this takes too long, and it probably will if you're going up against a coverage situation called cover zero. So if you come up to the line of scrimmage, quarterback or wide receiver, you see no high safeties, you see man coverage across the board, they're stacking the box, this probably isn't the best route to run. I would probably recommend, if I was telling a quarterback, hey, if we have a jerk route on one side and then we have like a slant on the left side and you see cover zero, let's probably throw this slant because it's quicker and we get the ball to my hands. But if it's a situation where it's like two-man coverage, where it's man coverage across the board, but there's two high safeties, so that means that the quarterback is going to have some time, and the two-man coverage is trying to stop deeper passing concepts downfield, that's when you could use this situation. It's a longer developing route, but again, it can work in certain situations where the quarterback has time or the timing of the play suffices. So let's play this again, full speed one more time. Great job showcasing this jerk route here from Isaac Boston, wide receiver out of Dartmouth. So next route is going to be a route that you guys can use in one-on-ones in a goal line situation. So in a goal line situation, it is very, very important. Like we talk about this middle of the field, like 50-yard line, 40-yard line on any route. Like let's say it's a comeback, let's say it's a dig. What are we trying to make the DB think I'm running? We're trying to make him think we're running a fade, right? So now when I'm in the red zone, 20-yard line going in or less, it's probably not going to do us any good to sell a deep fade, right? It's probably going to do us some good to sell a goal line fade. Like this ball is going to that back pylon. So a great move that you can use on a route like a comeback, or you could use it on, an out route, a corner maybe, is a peek back move. Okay, so I'm going to play this full speed and then we'll break it down. So this wide receiver comes off, gives a move inside, threatens the leverage. He peeks back, gets that DB thinking fade, and he's able to get separation. Ball was thrown a little bit high, but for the most part, he's open. And this is one of the toughest plays for a DB2 guard in the red zone. So I'm putting it into the DB's perspective. He's in man coverage, and this is how you should think as a wide receiver. Honestly, you have to think like a DB because that can make your routes more efficient. And same thing, I know there are probably a lot of DBs watching this video because they're trying to learn how we think. Off the line, man coverage, one-on-ones, it's all a chess match. It's all being able to understand how the other guy is thinking, guessing correctly, because most of the time a DB is guessing. But as a wide receiver, we have a genuine plan, and we could set up that plan based on how the DB is playing. So he's inside leverage. This means that he has no help to the inside and he's trying to force us to the outside. But at the end of the day, it's still man coverage. He does not want to get beat over the top. He does not want to get beat on a fade. So that's how we want to threaten him. So if I have to run this comeback, I don't want to just take off and run and let him squeeze me to the sideline. I want to come off the ball and I want to make it look exactly like how I would run a goal line fade. Maybe I've done this before. Maybe I've showcased this on film going into a game, and this DB's expecting it. So maybe I use the same exact release off the line. I give a little hesitation move. I attack his leverage inside. I threaten him. I close the space. This looks a lot like that goal line fade. So when we get up to the break point, you see how he peeks back with those eyes. Now, I think he may have raised up a tad tall on this. Like when you guys peek back to sell that goal line fade, you don't have to lean back. You know what I mean? Because sometimes that can give it away. If you guys peek back to sell this fade and your chest pops up in the air, sometimes that can give away to the DB that it's not actually a goal line fade. When you guys peek back, it is just a glance over that inside shoulder. Trust me, that's enough. Now, I know like what we were saying, a DB is supposed to be watching your hips and reading your body language in man. So when you peek back with your eyes, you might think, well, he's not even supposed to be looking at your eyes. But trust me, fellas, when it's a goal line situation, nobody wants to get beat on that like head top fade, over the shoulder, goal line, toe tap catch. Nobody does. So that little peek back will change your body language somewhat. I don't want you raising. I just want you glancing. But that little glance, trust me, that can get that DB to think that goal line fade. We put the brakes on and stop, and that can get us a lot of separation. So let's say you're running this route, middle of the field, and you want to run a comeback. I don't think peeking back will do you much good unless it's like further down into the route. I like this peek back a lot on the goal line situation because you can peek back early and you can get that DB really to overcommit. They will 100%, it can work if you sell it correctly downfield, but it's got to be like very, very far downfield. Peeking back on maybe like a 10-yard out route might not do you a whole ton of good if you're trying to sell that deep fade. I think selling with your speed and your stride will help you sell it more. Not to say that that can't work. But on the goal line, this is an easy way to run that unguardable comeback, out route, etc. Because every DB on the goal line is threatened by that quick jump ball fade or over-the-shoulder fade. Let's play this again, full speed one more time. Great job attacking the leverage, making his route look similar so he can win on that comeback. All right, so now, next example we're going to go over here is going to be, this is honestly one of my favorite routes for a one-on-one man coverage situation. That is going to be an inside release 10-yard out route, and everybody is afraid of this. So we just had a camp this past weekend in St. Louis, and the most separation that guys got is when they took what the DB gave them. So many times, guys will come up to the line, press coverage, and there will be a dude who's outside leverage, and they call an outside breaking route, right? And this is what will happen in one-on-ones. And I know one-on-ones can be unrealistic at times, but it's great for different man coverage looks if you treat it realistically for an actual game scenario. So wide receivers, like let's say you come up, you tell your quarterback the route. You tell him, or the quarterback tells you a route, and you tell him you're running a 10-yard out or a 12-yard corner. And what are you going to do if we're doing one-on-ones? You're going to cut your split down. You're going to line up closer to the QB to give yourself more space to the outside. A DB's not an idiot. He knows that if you cut your split down, you're probably doing that to run an outside breaking route. So we have to get comfortable taking an inside release because he is not going to give up the outside. He's going to line up an outside leverage because he's expecting the outside route, and his goal is do not give up the outside release. So as a wide receiver, I need to understand that. A lot of people think, well, coach, what if I go at him, I give him a hard fake inside, and then I take the outside release? trust me, fellas, he ain't going to give that up. It's not that easy. It's not just, oh, go up to him and he's going to bite on every fake that I do. If you guys try to fake him to the inside, he's thinking, good, I want you to run to the inside, because in a real game, he has help over here. And in one-on-ones, it's the worst thing that you can do. You get outside leverage, because I know what some of you are thinking. Well, I'm going to cut my split down and go run a post. Nobody thinks that that's a good route. When you catch a post route on the opposite hash, nobody's going to be like, oh, wow, good route. It's going to be the DB gave you that. In a real game, he's got safety help. You got to treat it realistically, fellas. If you're going to run a post, line up further outside. Make it realistic. No offensive coordinator is going to call that. So let's watch what this wide receiver does. He takes the inside release here, gets all the way to the break point, and throws the DB by giving the quarterback space. At the end of the day, when it's man coverage, timing is important. Timing is always important. But trust me, a quarterback knows it's man coverage, and he knows that you have to work the route. Not take your time with the route, but he knows that you have to get some separations. Might not be the smoothest break for him. So giving the quarterback space is so beneficial for us, because he can actually lead us. If you give him space to lead us and room to work, and maybe he could put a little touch on the ball, lead us open, or maybe just throw it out in front of us on time, that's such an easy completion. So this wide receiver, again, he attacks the DB's leverage outside. And that's the best way to get a DB to move. You threaten him where he doesn't want us to go. And that's where his leverage is. So if he lines up an outside leverage, you want to threaten him to the outside, because that's what's going to get him to move. The goal off the line is not to just hold the DB and get him to stay there. It's to get him to move off of his platform, whether he's inside or whether he's outside leverage. So he's outside leverage. Let's attack him outside, because that's what will get him to move off the platform, and it gives me the free inside release. So now when I take this inside release, just like if he was inside leverage and you were running an out route, your goal should be to what? It should be to stack the guy, right? My goal should be to get over the top of him, get him trailing my back hip, so maybe I could give him a hard fake inside, give him a rocker step, whatever move we decide to do, maybe a peek back, right, that we were just talking about. Now, if I don't do that and he's right on my hip, this is where guys freak out. But honestly, it's the best thing that could happen to you, because you still have a plan. There's an easy way to get separation at the break point, and that's called a throw by. So you get all the way up to the break point, you're pushing fade, you got him to commit. Now this is where the break can change. And this is where the quarterback understands that it's man coverage. It's not going to be the smoothest, most timing perfect route when it's man-to-man press man. He knows you have to work the route. So the break changes. Instead of doing a rocker step, this wide receiver drops his butt, he puts the brakes on to make that sharp cut, and he swats by with his outside arm. This is not a push-off. I honestly don't think this will get called. If you're extending your arm and like pushing the DB in his back, that's probably going to be called a push-off. But if you're just swatting his hands off and he's got hands on you this far downfield, that's just hand fighting. And no referee is going to throw a flag for a push-off on this, unless it's blatantly obvious, okay? So he swats the hands. He's violent with the hands at the exact same time he's dropping his hips and dropping his weight. And then again, look what happens. DB ends up falling, probably a little bit of a slip, but I know the throw by had something to do with it. Even if the DB doesn't slip and he's able to recover, we gave the quarterback a ton of space by not forcing the outside release. Because if you go all the way back to the top of this thing, let's say we do fake to the inside and we force the outside release. DB's going to squeeze us to that sideline, do the best he can to keep his leverage. But even if you get outside and you break, you're not going to have that much room. You will not have that much space. If you take the inside release, you kept a whole lot of space. And especially if you cut your split down to the hash where this wide receiver is, that is a ton of space for that quarterback to throw you open. And all the quarterback needs is a step. If you give him a step or two, you're open. And if he misses the throw or throws it late, that's on him. That's not on you. You just have to give him space, and you got to keep timing. So let's play this again, full speed one more time. Great job by this wide receiver taking the inside release, throwing by, and then winning that race to the ball. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you would like to come out and train with us in 8 more states this offseason, we are going to be coming out to Honolulu, Hawaii, all the way to Los Angeles, California. So check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you out to one of our off-season camps. I'll see you guys next time.